Hello my sweet angel besties, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a flip through of my 2024 reading journal. I've had a few requests to do this, and so I thought, of course, I want to take you guys through my reading journal, show you all the spreads. I'm going to be doing this, I guess, in two parts. By the way, this intro will be quick, I promise. The first part is just going to be me flipping through this journal with some background music so you can just see the spreads, I guess. You can pause it if you want to recreate it or screenshot it to take inspiration from if you so wish. And then in the second part of this video, I will be doing more of a talk through, flip through, where I talk through why I did certain spreads, if I liked them, if I'm going to do them in my next journal. I talk about some of the supplies I used. It's just much more of a chatty segment, so I wanted to include both because I know some of you will just want a straight flip through and some of you will want a bit more of a discussion, I guess. So I hope you enjoy my 2024 reading journal flip through, and just in case you're wondering, my 2025 reading journal setup is coming very soon, so stay tuned for that. But for now, I hope you enjoy this reading journal flip through. Here is my beautiful reading journal from 2024, and look how thick she has become over the year. We have so many spreads to go through and look at, and I'm so excited to show you. This journal is from Amazon. The brand is Primrosia. I'm not exactly sure. I just got it from Amazon. I will link it down below, but let's get into the flip through. Here is my title page. Pretty simple, very fun. My whole journal is very colorful. I wouldn't really say I stuck to a specific theme or anything, just lots of color. This is my reading goal page. In the past, I used to do little boxes that I would fill in every time I read a book, but this time I went for more of a bookshelf style, and I really liked this. I'm going to keep this for 2025, but update it a little bit, which again, you will see in my next video. But yeah, I liked this, but I do think I can do something better, so I'm hoping to improve on this one a little bit. I also color coded it based on the month that I read the book. So all of the January books are pink, all of the February books are orange, and so on and so forth. And I don't mind that, but I think I'm going to change that this year. My reading goal for the year was 100 books, and I did complete that. I drew 100 books on this shelf, so obviously once I'd colored in all of the books, it meant I had completed my reading goal. I was planning on kind of mirroring this spread and drawing another bookshelf on this side, but I just never did, and I don't know why. I wish I had, but I guess I just could never be bothered. But that would have been nice, because I hate just having blank pages in the middle of my journal. And that was not the plan, but it's just kind of what happened. Then we move on to my reading log. So this is something that I've kept the same or almost the same for multiple years now because it just works. I do use Goodreads to track my reading, but this is the main way that I track. Like sometimes I forget to log some books on Goodreads, but I never forget to log a book in my reading journal. And this is kind of like the main hub of like the most important information. So I always track, well, I guess the number of books that I've read is the first little section. Then we always have the title, the author. This is my genre section, so it is color coded by genre. And another tip that I'll actually give you is I use Crayola Super Tips to do a majority of my coloring in my journal. I love them. I've used them for years and I think they're amazing. I love the color selection. I love the quality of the marker. They're also very affordable, but I don't know how well you guys will be able to see this. I have labeled my markers, but labeling it just makes it such an easy process when you're actually filling things like this in. Eventually you'll probably just remember which marker is which, but especially if you have multiple yellow shades, multiple orange shades, multiple pink shades, it is really handy to label your markers. So I definitely recommend doing that. But yeah, you can obviously see all of the different colors, which is all of the different genres that I've read. And then I also track how many pages each book was, and then also my rating. If you can see the horizontal lines here, that is where I break up the months. So I log all of my January books and then break it up, February, break it up, and that helps me just remember which month I read each book. So I love these pages, I love these spreads, I find them really helpful. I often look back at them, and I always try and make sure that when I create my reading journal at the beginning of the year, I always leave enough space to make extra spreads. So as you can see here, I did have one more page that I could have used for another reading log spread, but I didn't end up needing it. Then we have my monthly tracker and my genre tracker, another spread that I just love and think is very, very practical and something that I find fascinating. I love book stats. And if you are like me and you love book stats, definitely recommend doing stuff like this. It's easy to track and it's really interesting to look back on. I know that lots of apps do things like this. Like I think Storygraph and Fable and some other apps like that can create graphs and things like this for you. I really enjoy the actual process of creating these and seeing how they turn into something over the year. I know that there are easier ways to do this. Like I can use an app. I don't want to. I love doing it this way. I find it really fun. So if you want to do it through an app, if you don't like the idea of doing it by hand, obviously use the app. Like I have no qualms with that. Like you do what works best for you. But I just love filling this in, and I love seeing it go from an empty spread to a completely full spread and just see what my year looks like pretty much at a glance, I guess. So on this side, obviously, I just track the amount of books I read each month. I read 10 in January, 11 in February, 15 in March, 16 in April, 14 in May, 17 in June, 16 in July, 5 in August, 11 in September, 12 in October, 12 in November, and 13 in December. So obviously my biggest reading month was June, couldn't tell you why. And then my lowest month was August, which makes sense because that's when I was traveling overseas for most of the month. So I just didn't read a lot because I just was busy. I was a busy gal that month. So that's really fun. And I just chose to do different colors just for fun, but you could just use the same color if you wanted or stick to like a color theme, I guess. And then on this side, we have the genre tracker. And as you can see, I track each genre and then each little square represents a book that was read within that genre. So if I read a romance book, I just colored in one of the squares. And you can also see that I left a lot of room for romance, a lot of room for fantasy, and just a smaller space for everything else. And that's just because those are the two genres that I read the most of. You can see I read 54 romance books and 57 fantasy books. And then if you want to know the other stats, I read 12 mystery books, 2 thriller, 3 sci-fi, 2 dystopian, 7 historical fiction, 10 general fiction. This also includes literary fiction. I kind of grouped those together. 2 Christian and 3 nonfiction. Definitely going to continue these spreads into 2025, but they will be a little bit updated just because I like to switch things up a little bit. Then we have one of my favorite spreads. This is my 24 books to read in 2024. I do this spread every year. So obviously it changes each year because it used to be 22 books to read in 2022, 23 books to read in 2023. But this is the second year I've kind of used this little format where I make it look like a pile of books, and I love how this looks. I'm going to definitely continue this into 2025. It'll look probably very similar. And what is even more exciting about this spread is that I, for the first time ever, after doing this kind of TBR situation every year for the past, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years, this is the first year that I have actually completed the TBR, which I am so stoked about. I read every book on this list. So this started out as just like black outline, and every time I finished one of the books on this list, I colored the book in. I also wrote my ratings next to each book just because I think it's fun to look back on, but I love how this spread looks at the end of the year. It looks so colorful and so full, and it's just always very satisfying. So I feel really happy about this spread, and it always just makes me so happy to look back on. Then we have my hopefuls page. So this is books that I really would love to get to this year, but they're not necessarily on my official TBR, and I did well with this. I completed most of them. I also left space because I wasn't sure if I was going to add more books on here, but I didn't end up using that side. I'll probably continue this into 2025, but we'll see. It's not a spread that I'm obsessed with. Like, I don't feel like it's necessary, but it is sometimes useful to just be like, oh, that's a book I've been meaning to get to. I should just write it down somewhere so I don't forget. Next up, we have my anticipated releases spread. I ended up doing a double spread in 2024 because I did one spread in 2023 and it didn't end up being enough room. So I doubled it this year, and I'm really glad that I did, and I'll definitely continue that into 2025. Like, I'll definitely do a double spread again. But this year what I did was these were all just empty spots, kind of like they are here. Like, you can see all the empty spots on this page. And I was just writing out any books that were anticipated releases for me, like just books that I was really excited about. And if I read them, I would then glue in a photo of the cover. So very simple. There are some that were anticipated releases that I just never ended up getting to. I'm going to change this again a little bit in 2025, but I'm going to keep it mostly the same. I love spreads where you print out the cover of the book and stick it in. I love how it looks. I think it's so visually appealing, and I also love looking back at it. And I definitely want to do more spreads with printed out covers in 2025 because I just love how it ends up looking at the end of the year. Moving on to my reading bucket list. This is also something I've done for years now. Again, at the beginning of the year, this spread is just completely black and white, no color at all. And every time I finish something on my bucket list, I get to color in that square. And we ended up coloring in almost every square. We missed out on 2. So I did not read a book that was over 1,000 pages, and I did not do any buddy reads, but I would love to do that next year. So I'm going to continue this one, keep it very similar for 2025 because this one is just really fun to me. And obviously you can add whatever you want on it. Then we have my series tracker. I like this spread. I'm not obsessed with it. I don't think it's the best way of tracking series, and I'm going to change this a little bit. In 2025, it was not really a spread that I kept up with very religiously. It was kind of something that I would go to every now and then and be like, oh yeah, I should, update that. But basically how I did it was I would write down all the series that I'm in the middle of, which also I have not got every series that I'm in the middle of on this spread. I should have updated it and I didn't, and I'm sad about it because I also had a whole extra spread ready to go because I knew that I would need more space. and I just never updated it. So this was a bit of a fail, and we're going to try and do better at this one next year, or I guess this year. My camera stopped recording for a sec, so I had to restart. But as I was saying, I just want to be better at doing the spread this year, keep updated with it. Basically how I've done it is just I wrote down each series that I was in the middle of, and each time I finished a book in that series, I got to highlight it. So any of the ones that are fully highlighted are series that I've read every book in, and then obviously the ones that don't have everything highlighted are ones that I haven't completed yet. Then we have my rereads page. I like the concept of this page, but we're definitely going to change the way that I've done it moving into 2025. I want to do printouts instead of a list. I just like the way it looks better, and I feel like it'll fill the space much better. I don't really know why I thought I needed a double spread for this, because I don't reread a ridiculous amount of books every year. In saying that though, I ended up rereading 10 books, which I actually think is a really nice amount. I guess that's almost one per month, and there are just so many books that I always want to be rereading because they're just like old favorites, or maybe I just want to remind myself if I've forgotten a bit. But I definitely want to do more rereads in 2025 because they truly make me so happy. Then we have my non-fiction TBR, which I never filled out, so that was a bit of a fail for me. And then my non-fiction reads page. So I ended up reading 5 non-fiction books. It's okay. I think I would like to read more moving forward. The book You Want Everyone You Love to Read by Philippa Perry. This was kind of like a self-helpy kind of book, kind of similar to Everything I Know About Love, but not as good. We read this for my book club and none of us were really obsessed with it. Then I read Practicing the Way by John Mark Comer and Garden City by John Mark Comer, and I'm still reading another book by this author as well. He is a Christian nonfiction author that I came to love this year, so I definitely want to continue reading his backlist. I also read ADHD 2.0. This was one recommended to me by my therapist. And then I also did a reread of Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, which is more of like a memoir kind of style, and I loved that one. Oh, I wrote 5 nonfiction rereads. That's a mistake. Just 5 nonfiction reads, not rereads. But yeah, I'd love to read more than 5 in 2025. Then we have my library reads spread. This was useless. I did not use this pretty much at all. I like the idea of it. I don't even know why I didn't use it. I didn't really read many physical library books this year. I read a lot more in 2023. So I thought I was going to use this page a lot more. I used Libby a lot and BorrowBox a lot, which are both library apps where you can get audiobooks and ebooks. So I definitely still used my library heaps, but I just didn't use the physical library heaps. And I don't know. I don't think I will continue this spread into 2025. If you are someone who uses the library a lot, I think this is a really fun idea. I just didn't end up using it, so I'm not going to redo it. Then we have my Kindle reads. Again, I just did not keep up with this, so I'm probably not going to continue it. I did 3 books in here, and I read a lot more than 3 books on my Kindle this year, so again, we're scrapping that. It didn't work for me, and that's okay. We're just not going to continue it. Moving into my Hall of Fame page, I love the concept of this, and I like how this spread turned out. I'm going to keep it fairly similar moving forward into 2025, but I am going to update it a little bit. One thing that really bothered me right from the beginning of doing this spread is the glue. You can see the glue, because I was like, oh, I'll just like put some glue on there and stick all of the little confetti little stars on there, and obviously the glue will dry clear. Well, I guess it did dry clear because from this angle, it looks clear. But as soon as you start looking at it in the light, no. I hate. So we are going to change this a little bit. I have a really fun idea for my next version of this, and I'm really excited to see it come to life. But I do love the idea of this. So if you don't know what the Hall of Fame is, it's basically just where I keep track of all of my favorite reads from the year. So what I did this year was all of my 5-star reads are on this side and all of my 4.5-star reads are on this side. So it's kind of just like all of your favorite books get like a special spot, and it's also really great to look back on because you can kind of see exactly how many 5-star reads you had or exactly how many 4.5-star reads you had. I didn't finish updating this. Like, there are a couple books that I still need to glue in on these pages, but I keep forgetting about it. So yeah, these aren't fully updated, but they are fairly accurate. I also did like the idea of this like star confetti because obviously they're like 5-star reads, so the stars kind of tie in. It's really fun. However, they kept falling off throughout the year, and that bugged me a lot because I just found stars absolutely everywhere. So I'm not going to be using, oh my gosh, have I been saying confetti? I guess it's glitter. Either way, I'm not going to be doing this again. So see ya. Okay, then we have my TBR cart spread and my new book spread. These are such good spreads if you are someone who is trying to complete your physical TBR or like make more more of a dent in your physical TBR, kind of try not to buy as many new books, or maybe just keep track of the new books that you're buying. I really recommend these spreads. They ended up being really helpful to me. So at the beginning of 2024, I drew a little TBR cart because that's how I store my physical TBR. Obviously you could do a shelf, you could do whatever you want. And I basically just did a little like visual version of what my physical TBR looked like at the end of 2023. Because obviously moving into 2024, I wanted to complete a lot of the books that had been sitting on my physical TBR for a long time. And this just helped me to focus on the books that had just been sitting there for a long time. And I feel like I did a really good job, if I do say so myself. This started off again, just outlined with black pen, and each time I finished a book that was on this list, I got to color it in. And there's only one book that is not colored in. So we did a great job on this spread, and it helped me just to keep in mind the books that had been sitting on my physical TBR for a long time. And then this spread just started off as a plain bookshelf, and every time I bought a new book, I would draw a little book and write the title of the book on here. And then when I finished that book, I would color it in. So again, you can see a lot of books that are just white with black outline. Those are all books that I bought but haven't read yet, and all of the colored ones are books that I have read. So this just stopped me from buying a bunch of books and not reading them, because I was so deeply aware of all of the books that I still hadn't read yet. So this just helped me to stop buying a ton of books without actually reading them. And as you can see, I did a pretty good job at like buying books and then reading them instead of just buying them and letting them sit on my shelf. So I found this really helpful. I don't know if it'll help everyone, but if you're looking for something to help you get through your physical TBR, maybe this is a way to do it. I found it really motivating, really helpful, and it looks like a cute little spread. Then we have my physical TBR. This is kind of similar to what I had done here, but a different sort of layout. Okay, also I get a lot of questions about this spread. This is called, I think it's called a Dutch door. So if you look up Dutch door on YouTube or TikTok or something like that, you could probably see like actual tutorials about how to do this. But all you do is just cut off the part of the page that you don't want to use, and it looks like you have mini pages within your big pages. And I love the way this looks. I'm going to do a lot of Dutch doors in my 2025 journal. You guys will see it. And if you're still confused about what I'm saying, you will literally see me create them in my next video. But again, this is just a way for me to track my physical TBR and actually make sure that I'm reading the books that are on my physical TBR. So this just started out as a list with no purple highlighting, and then each time I read a book that was on my physical TBR, I got to highlight it purple. And I ended up having 32 total unread books left on my physical TBR at the end of 2024. And I am really happy about that, because that includes all the books I got in PR, all the books that I bought for myself, and all of the books that have just been sitting on my physical TBR for years. 32 is great for me, because at one point I think I had like close to 100, maybe more. A lot of improvement here, and that's the main thing. We're just looking for improvement. Then we have my monthly stats page. I did not keep up with this almost at all. The only thing I kept up with was the total books read. This was just a way for me to track a whole bunch of things each month. I didn't do this, and I'm really sad that I didn't, so I want to try this again in 2025. So I'm gonna do something similar in 2025, and we are going to try again. But the things I wanted to track were total books read, which I did, total pages, how many physical books I read, how many ebooks I read, how many audio books I listened to, how many of the books that I read were library books, how many books I bought that month, and also my current TBR count. Okay, at the start of 2024, I had 64 books on my physical TBR. So we have more than halved that, as well as buying new books. So I'm happy with that. But again, I did not use this at all. So I definitely want to do a better job at using this spread in 2025. Then we have my book club spread. This was really fun and definitely something I want to continue. So I would just print out a photo of the book that we read each month, and I wrote the title of the book. I wrote who chose it. So this is a book we read in January. It was Soph's choice and my rating was 3 stars. Then we read None of This Is True in February. This was Lang's choice and my rating was 4 stars, and so on and so forth. And this was great until we kind of gave up on book club. And I don't want to say gave up, because we didn't give up. We all just got really, really busy. So we did take a bit of a break, a bit of a hiatus for book club, but we are coming back in 2025 and we're all really excited about it. So this will definitely be a spread I continue, because I loved looking back at it and I think it's really fun. It also is just really visually appealing to me. Then we just have a couple of blank pages, because those were kind of just left in case I wanted to create extra spreads, but I guess I didn't. And And then we move into kind of like my monthly logging kind of situations. So this is my January page. Obviously just went for a bit of a pink theme. I would just track all of the books and then usually tracked a couple of other bits. And then I wrote all of my actual thoughts about each of the books that I read. However, you will see that this stops because it was so much work and I just couldn't keep up with it. Then we have my February page. I also put my TBR on this side, which became a bit of a trend. And again, I wrote little reviews, which is actually such a cute idea. I wish I liked doing this more, but I don't enjoy it. Again, I left space because I thought I was going to write all my thoughts about these books and I just didn't. But I did glue in some photos. This was a really fun one because I ended up getting some PR for Magnolia Parks, and that was like probably one of the highlights of my career thus far. Like getting an early copy of one of my favorite books that is literally crazy. And so I wanted to document that. And then also I ended up getting PR for Crescent City 3. And again, that was just such a crazy moment in my career. So I wanted to document that. But again, didn't end up writing anything, which is so annoying. I wish I did. But you know what? We win some, we lose some. Then we have March, we have April, a similar kind of setup, TBR on one side, log on the other side. And here's where it starts to fail because I just stopped writing about the books that I read. I would still write down my rating, but like actually writing about them, it just stopped. I did, however, do this, which was really fun. So after I read Funny Story, which was one of my favorite books of the year, I went on Pinterest and I created like a Pinterest board based on the book. And I love that because even looking back at this now, it reminds me so much of all of the little moments in the book. And I definitely want to do more of these in 2025 because this is just so fun. I also did it for just for the summer, created a Pinterest board. I thought again that I was gonna do a whole lot of writing, and I did not because I just don't really like writing book reviews that much. I like saying them and I like doing pictures, but yeah, not writing them. I'm thinking moving into 2025, I'll just write ones that I feel like writing about, like ones that I feel passionate about, and I do want to do more Pinterest boards like this. Then we have May, just following the same kind of style with different colors and different stickers and stuff. And this is what I ended up doing moving forward. So instead of writing actual reviews on each book, I would just glue in a little like wrap up page, I guess. We have June. I love the colors that I did here. I also started doing more of like a scrapbook style. Like some months I use a lot of markers, but some months I moved more towards doing like this scrapbook style where I would glue in paper and then print out the covers and do lots of little stickers and stuff. And I really love how that turned out, and I'm really glad that I continued doing that. Then I did this random one where I just wanted to track all of the books that I had bought in the first 6 months of the year. So from January to June, these are all the books that I read, and then I colored in when I had read them, again just to keep track of making sure I was actually reading the books that I bought. A lot of my spreads are redundant and unnecessary, but they're fun, and that's why I do them. I don't do them because I need to, I do them because I want to. So you might be like, but you already did a spread that kind of has that information. I know, I just find it so fun, so I just keep doing it. Then we have my July page and my July reads, my August page, which was the month that I traveled and didn't read very much, which is so fine. Then we have September. Again, this is one of my favorite spreads because I love the pink and like the scrapbook style of this one. And then again, my September reads. End of year TBR. I did okay on this, but I didn't do great. And then we have, a little spread that I did when I bought books in the US. So these are all the books that I bought while I was overseas, and I ticked them off when I read them. So I only have 2 more that I need to read from this list, which is really fun. And I also just wrote down which store I bought them at, like whether I bought them in Barnes & Noble, or this one I bought at the Strand, Barnes & Noble, the Rip Bodice, Barnes & Noble, and then Brattle Books in Boston, which is just fun to look back on. Then we have October. Again, I love this spread. This was really fun, very scrapbooky. And then my October reads, I printed those ones so big. I don't know why I did that. November, and my November wrap-up page. And then we have my December TBR and log, and then my December reads. This one was not scrapbooky at all. It was just markers, and I did little Christmas lights to make it like slightly festive but still kind of colorful. But yeah, this spread just goes to show you definitely don't need to do like that kind of scrapbooky style if that's not your vibe. I like to switch it up and do different things all the time. But that is the last spread that I did in my 2024 2024 journal. I have some random things written in here and there, but that is how many pages I had left. Not a crazy amount, but definitely a few. But yeah, there is my 2024 reading journal flip through. Thank you so much, besties, for joining me as I just got to show you my book journal, talk through all my spreads. My reading journal makes me so happy, and the fact that you guys actually care about it and want to see it as well is so special to me. Hopefully moving into 2025, I can also share a lot more of my spreads with you. Like I mentioned, there'll be a whole setup video coming very soon, but I am hoping that I can share more of me actually filling out the journals throughout the year, whether it's in YouTube videos or whether it may be on TikTok or Instagram, I'm not sure. But if you're around on my channel or on my socials, I'm sure you will see it, and of course I'm sure I'll do a little flip through at the end of the year as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out with me while we talked all things book journal. Let me know if you have any questions down below. I'll try my best to get back to you, but I love you guys so much, and I guess I'll see you guys in my next video very soon. Goodbye.